Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Unlimited Railworks, Gamesline's premier anime podcast. Not like that other one we have. I am your host, Rose. I don't know what I'm saying, but we're here to talk about anime. I don't really know what's going on. Anime season's just starting, like next week, so we don't really have any big, hot new things to talk about. But we had some stuff we were going to talk about last week. I guess John has some new stuff we'll get to. John is here. Hi, John.
Hello, I'm here.
Hi. And we have a bunch of stuff Maverick didn't get to talk about last week, who is also here. Maverick, hi.
Hello.
Hi. LV was going to be here, but then LV went to go do boxing, which is crazy. I wish her the best of luck. I had a friend who got really into boxing, and takes a lot out of your body. I think people really recommend it for like weight loss and stuff like that, you know, because it's pretty intensive. Just the stances you have to get into and hold and everything. But I wish her luck. Unfortunately, we don't get to hear about Dr. Stone this week, which it's always a peek into a darker world.
I went back to hear y'all talk about the recent updates, and it was very funny hearing expectations of what the show is going to do, having like finished the manga. And by finished, I mean like I shotgunned those last chapters really just to see, was there anything at all? Was there anything interesting? And there's stuff that's coming up that I'm really excited to see LV just like bear witness to.
I've only heard terrifying things about the end. I mean, I think you did you talk about it, the manga, when it ended? I feel like you did almost, but maybe that wasn't on the show or anything.
It might have just been in a very like nothing happens kind of way.
Yeah, sure. You know what? Yeah, actually, I was gonna say, I don't know. There's something happens. Something happens. That's my great transition. Maverick, you've been watching more Gundam to get caught up since you saw your damn, what's it called? G-Quacks.
That I did. Oh my god. Getting right into this. Yeah, no, I mean, last month, now I can say that? Yeah. Jesus. No, so a couple of weeks ago, I went to a showing of Mobile Suit Gundam: Char's Counterattack. And in order to feel properly, like, set up for that, I also went ahead and finished Gundam Double Zeta. And so I am now officially caught up with, like, original Universal Century Gundam.
It's pretty crazy.
I know, it took a minute, but I mean, God, so I'm trying to think about where to even start with all that, because, excuse me, it's interesting to think about, like, how effectively you have had this series that had started in 79 and was now getting to like its 10th year. So like 3 shows, 1 movie, and an entire decade so far of people knowing these characters, and sort of like where you choose to just get like a sense of resolution. And mind you, in between all this, like, Tomodo's working on other shows, was also doing, like, just other, like, stuff. Because, like, there were just a lot of other ideas to put out and to, like, carry through. But, let me think. So, with 0079 being this, like, origin point, not just of, like, this whole conceit about, like, a real robot genre, but like, just you could tell that he wanted to say something, and be very just like willing to say something. about just like where things were at in the world. Having, grown up right at the like back end, and yeah, like growing up in the back end of, World War II, seeing the ways that like American imperialism was really starting to mold itself post World War II. And just that idea of like, why are we in a space that allows for and encourages war? A lot to get into for a kid's series for sure, but I think like, the appeal of it is the fact that like, since 0079, you have Amuro and Char, obviously, like, one person fighting for Earth Federation, one person fighting for Xeon, but then immediately is like, hey, what do you do when you have these young people and you have them figure out what are the things they want to fight for? What does it mean to fight for something? In Amuro's case, it's a lot of survival and a lot of just trying to get to the end of the war. And in his case, piloting the Gundam and winning for the Earth Federation means ending that war. For Char, it's a lot more complicated and a lot more personal investment that leads him to, continue his struggle. And you see that play out for a year. Then you wait, if you're a Gundam fan, you're waiting for a minute before you get anything in Zeta Gundam, which just digs even deeper to that. Why are these people continuing to fight, even if we decided that we've, solved this problem? And how does just the complacency of structures to allow for these issues, because in a way that system thrives off of those inherent issues. You see it with the Titans and the AEUG, if I'm remembering that abbreviation correctly. The whole allure around Quattro Bagina, who is not Char Aznable, by the way. Just got to make that clear. Two separate characters.
No, he's just heard about him.
He's heard about him, yeah. And so, him having to mentor Camille in a way that, like, requires a lot of responsibility the Quattro may not be able to fully take on. And then also is just recognizing, like, oh man, why am I doing all this? Why am I getting myself involved in a way that feels a little bit more nebulous? Or just, like, not as sure of himself as maybe Char was when he was, like, going through all of his scheming and, like, dismantlement of the Zabi family. And by the end of Zeta, it just really hammers home, like, hey, dog, no one's happy about this. No one's having a good time here. We are as trapped as fuck in this gravity as possible. And so Double Zeta comes along and is like, all right, maybe that was a little bit too heavy. What if instead you had a kooky cast of kids with no relation to what was going on, but who were at least, like, tuned in to be like, oh, I guess we're in the middle of this. And if we're in the middle of this, we gotta act and we gotta do stuff so that we don't get our asses kicked. It's not anime. Anime Janai,
No.
as the theme song goes.
Did they say that in the song?
The song literally goes Anime Janai.
That's incredible.
It's such a good theme. Like, it fucking goes hard. And I think, like, aesthetically, too, like, you just notice, like, it goes from a more, like, general sci-fi coding and aesthetic, and by, like, Double Zeta, these are kids wearing, like, 80s ass outfits that are, like, just so blatantly pulling off of modern fashion, but we're kind of just going, yeah, no, it's in space. It's different. It's like
Yeah.
space where even though it's like we got side ponytails and like the whole leotard setup while you're also in like a spacesuit and like hanging out in like trendy restaurants. The aesthetic kind of clashes, but you still have this focus on like, when devastation is left to the youth need to do something about it. And one of the most frustrating things as a youth trying to take action is when authority and adults just do everything to impede that actual causation. It leads to an end that is bittersweet, but I think is like the most like sensible thing anyone could do in that kind of a situation. And it's what makes the main character Judao such a fun character to root for, because it's another thing as well to consider new types, which there are a lot of things to consider with it. There's always that analog of new type as a analog to or analogy for autism or for mental illness or just all these other pieces. I can't weigh in on that too much. What I can weigh in is this idea of like the emergence of new types as a sort of like sense of reclamation to childhood, or as a like just innate willingness towards curiosity. A lot of what the like more fantastical moments of Gundam lean into that idea of like new types as, the evolution of humanity into space. And to have that kind of a back and forth, and for all of these people who awaken as a new type to predominantly be children, I think it lands credence to that idea of like, what kind of people do we focus in on? How do we, choose who to listen to? That balance between just outright seniority versus like allowing the space for newer and fresher ideas. And the biggest tragedy in all that too is, a lot of these people learn being a new type strictly through war. Like, I can't think of a situation in this series where someone doesn't fully awaken to being a new type without like shooting a fucking mobile suit gun.
Of course.
Which is intentional. Like that makes so much sense. Like, oh no, of course we would be figuring out, the pinnacle of evolution in the midst of like full blown out like greed and arrogance on like who gets a right to rule. And so this all culminates, at least like Tomoda's vision culminates in Char's counterattack. And it's a doozy. The classic setup, After years of saying, "Where's Char? He's back now." And he's gonna launch an asteroid on Earth.
I mean, that just makes sense for him knowing what I know of the man.
It does make so much sense. Like, the thing that is so compelling about Char is deep down, he is definitely justified in what he wants to do. But there is also just a, like, continual, like, arrogance or need for just the, like, perfect scenario in order to get things through. And that is often the that's the Achilles heel of his ability to be an effective instrument for change. Like, to the point where, like, it's awesome that he in this movie, I think there's even moments where he's like, no, yeah, I'm doing this to, like, instill a change. Like, I want things to be different, but this also doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be the person to lead that change. I'm not expecting to, in this whole convoluted plan. I am not expecting to be in a position to actually be the next leader of the Space Noids, but I know like that right now this is the only option I got, and I'm sure it's all going to take it. That is compelling and so like selfless to a cause that to think about just like everything that's going on now, it's like, man, I can't think of anybody who is like doing that right now. But the rest of the movie focuses on, we got this whole mission that's happening. Everyone's favorite cop, Amuro, is on the scene one more time trying to make sure that this doesn't happen because he just really fucking hates Char. And don't ask him about any of his other like ideas around the Earth Federation, the state of the planet. Nah, if Char's behind this, I'm not about it. And the like side characters in this are they vary in interest. I would say the standout character in this whole movie is the new type that they introduced, Quest, who is like a crash course into what would be a very strong character for a like longer series. But they're just like, all right, 2 hours. Here we have teenager who went abroad for school. People are talking about new types at school in her abroad experience. So that means that she knows everything. We'll tell people that she knows everything about new types. Turns out, oh, hey, she actually is a new type. And now is like dealing with 50 different things around. I am in the middle of this conflict. As I'm developing these insane powers, I have a knack for shooting the gun really good, and I have a crush on my commanding officer, and I really want him to notice me because I'm a young person who's infatuated by people that can display power. She rules. She's such a fun character to see because it's just so... It's the purest, like, I am 15 and I don't care about anything, but I'm also caring about everything. Kind of... like writing. And granted, there's a lot about the writing as well that I'm not gonna like sit there and praise. Fucking, oh my god, tell me now. You're still a long ways away. But it's interesting to at least see, at the core, like, oh, why do we need this character here? Because even in like a world-ending scenario, you can't help but care about the things that feel like the most present to you. And in Quest's case, it's like, my father is in a failing marriage and sees women that aren't my mom. I don't know where my mom is, and adults only lie to each other, so I can't trust adults. And that's a sound line of reasoning when that is like the reality that you experience. And when someone shows you something that breaks from that, of course you're gonna like lean into them, especially if what they provide or offer sounds better than what you currently like struggle with.
Not to go too far back, but you talking about the fashion changes, I think that's a really interesting thing about watching a series like this that goes over kind of bridges the exact gap of when anime started changing in a lot of ways, from like, really coming into its own as a medium, in the broadly like pop cultural sense, instead of just like a means to of expression, etc. Just like thinking about like, the original Gundam is very much in that vein of like Astro Boy, right? It's like sci-fi suits, weird, riffing on like how people would dress in a futuristic setting, and then pivoting that to the more like everyone talks about the later fashion in those Gundams, fucking Char's insane Quattro Vagina fit, etc. I think that's really interesting that that series specifically, the just across those three entries, the original Zeta and then Double Zeta, it's just you get to see like kind of culture change.
Yeah, and I think it even helps when like that is still stuff that feels prescient. Like, again, if you've never seen Gundam, the Earth Federation are not the good guys, and
Yeah.
the series as it develops goes just to entire lengths to be like, no, yeah, there's definitely a divide between people that live in space and people that live on Earth, but also the main ruling body on Earth isn't necessarily doing stuff for the favor of Earth. Seeing all of this now, especially just like illuminates some of my like other criticisms of like G-Witch, where it's not so much that I'm needing like deep political commentary so much as I'm just asking, like, why are these people against each other? Why are these people rooting against one another? Where are those divides? Even like Suletta's mom, I had difficulty always understanding because it's just like, yeah, no, you were wronged by the people in this like oligarch, I guess, an oligarchy. Like, I'm even trying to think about it. Like, I don't know what the main.
I'd say probably that is what G-Witch was, an oligarchy. There was the companies, right?
It was like all these companies, but then it's like, I don't know who's actually in charge of, like, policy. Not that, like, you saw everybody in, like, the governing classes at, like, either table. But one of the key things is, like, Zeon is constantly in this issue of trying to figure a like outward culture or an outward political identity. So here are these multiple different figureheads to prop up in an attempt to try and gain like space noid unity. Char being the last one to really like cement that, as we see in like pieces of Char's counterattack. Earth Federation, like, there's such a back and forth in that as well, but you also then see, like, in that same movie, too, where it's like, oh, yeah, the politicians, like, that we showcase mainly just care about still governing the colonies, even if they don't live there, and also do not really have plans to take care of the rest of the Earth, which, in the snippets that we see, is just in fucking desolation. Like, one of the biggest things in the middle of Double Zeta is that the kids crash land in a site in like Africa, I want to say. And what you're seeing is people in the middle of trying to still like liberate local communities or countries and having to deal not just with these other kids having to like fight for their own survival, but also having to deal with like a principality that is promising them aid and liberation, but is just like not committing to that promise. And it's so interesting to see a case where like there are these pilots that by nature you root against because they're trying to hurt the heroes that you're watching, but you also like see them go through just like multiple stems of betrayal or like manipulation from people that just do not give a shit about them.
I know that we've talked to death about G-Witch in general, like, not having enough time or whatever else of its failings, but it really is just like they should have been able to nail a Char MILF. I really think that should have been easy. I think that should have been a slam dunk.
You would think, and like even then, it's like to see the evolution of that kind of a character, like it's not even anything particularly unique to him that like makes him such a compelling character, so much as just you constantly understand why he's doing the things he does.
And also, like, broadly, you understand how he established a paradigm of character, right? Like, just this idea of this really just relentless guy.
Yeah, there's always this commentary, I guess, around like Char's counterattack where people are like, oh, he's just always setting himself up to lose or like is always wanting failure. And it's like, no, he believes in his cause. Deep to the core, he does believe in the liberation of space noids. That is never not in question. Or sorry, that is never in question. That is never not something he is focused on. But it is also, again, that like level of perfectionism that comes into how he views just like his ability to carry out his plans. And then also that like idea where if people are capable of greater empathy through this awakening of being a new type, that emotion aspect is something he struggles with. And they're like, the last moments of that movie just hit you over the head with like, oh yeah, here's the stuff that both of these characters have just never gotten to actually like. Everything that you might have questioned about gets answered in those final moments, and it's answered in such a way where it's just like, fuck, dude, nothing is ever gonna happen, but in like the most depressing way possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
Well, do you have any Gundam plans after this? What is your Gundam ambition now? Is it just watch G-Quacks as it comes out? Is it
Probably check in on G-Quarks. I also want to keep on going because, like, if anything, I'd at least want to get to Turn A. And before that, so got 0083. Or no, sorry, I've got War in the Pocket, F91, Stardust Memory. I've already watched Wing and G, so I'm like good there. Oh, Victory.
Right, Victory.
Yeah. And then probably after Century Gundam X, I heard that was a pretty fun, like, alternate history Gundam that we just didn't get a chance to see.
Do you have any interest in those pocket build fighters or whatever? I know a couple people I know who really like those weird spin-off shows.
I've seen the first one of Build Fighters, and that one's fun, but everyone told me everything after that was bad.
Oh, that's a bummer.
I know they did... No, I'm confusing you with SD Gundam, which seems pretty solid. I might have to check that out.
I think SD Gundam was... So I think I watched SD Gundam when I was a child. And that was what I thought all Gundam was like. I think.
No, yeah, I remember the Cartoon Network dub of it.
Yep, that was I remember watching all of that, finding DVDs of it to watch more, and just being like, oh, this is what Gundam's like. And then, like, I think once I got online properly in like 2014 or something, I was like, what the hell is this? You mean that wasn't the real Gundam? It was genuinely surprising to me.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
They have a version that's also like Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
That's right, they do. Oh my god, I have seen that. I mean, I guess it just makes sense, logically speaking, that they would just do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, and it's better to try and do something like that than try and be like, okay, which of our horrible characters is the most like Guan Yu and Kong Ming? Maybe we have a Lu Bu, but who do we want to pin the crux of everything in a way that makes sense?
This is awesome. I'm looking into this right now. This is incredible. I love this. Wow. This is fascinating. Gundam's insane.
Yeah.
I know it's easy to say this, but it is yeah, I know it's still popular over here. Don't get me wrong. Astounding that they managed to be so foolish as to not like, maintain its lasting presence over here in any meaningful way over the years. I feel like only just now are they finally coming around. It's like, was there like a bad dub or something? Did they get them with one of those evil Power Rangers contracts for Kamen Rider?
I don't think so. I feel like, if anything, it might have just been like a general decline in like mecha.
Sure, okay, yeah.
Or in a way where like it was just becoming way too niche, and I wouldn't be surprised if Sunrise was just like, the model kits are fine. The people that like are buying those, they can keep getting it, but like I think there was a dub of Double O, I think. We did have dubs of like Iron Blooded Orphans, but just the general like after Wing and G Gundam, I can't think of anything that really like hooked itself to people's memory of the series.
I mean, what Seed was reasonably popular somehow.
Yeah, probably. But again, it's like not enough where I hear it talked about in the way that like Code Geass is talked about.
Oh yeah, sure.
Or rather, like it somehow
mean,
didn't like get attached in the same way that people like attached to that, even though they are like cut from the same cloth.
I'm just always surprised. I've always just assumed it's either a case of these days I either assume it's like the Power Rangers contract people got them, or the fucking they had someone on staff who's like the Dragon Quest composer who's like, we need to blow up the West, which I get, but it's always been surprising. I just thinking of it from the angle of like Kamen Rider, like just now where they're finally releasing like official subtitles for like any Kamen Rider series that's been released in the last like 20 years. It's just like, I wonder if Gundam being in theaters now does this and doing well, as far as I understand it. I wonder how that affects how they'll handle things going forward.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll lead to more opportunity.
I know that they make all those fancy Blu-rays or whatever, but for the average viewer, I just hope that it continues to get more accessibility, or not accessibility, really just elevation, awareness, stuff like that.
Yeah.
John.
Yes.
John.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, hi.
Okay. Yes.
Here. John,
Yes.
you did a bunch of things. I don't know what you want to talk about specifically. I know you read a whole bunch, but you also went and saw, a damn movie.
I've been going to see some movies lately. I did go see the G-Quarks film as well.
Yep.
But Maverick went over it. That's, I pretty much just agree. I went and saw Princess Mononoke a few nights ago.
Great movie.
Which was very good. Very, very good. I do think that some of it's a little muddled here and there, but the visuals, the characters, the music, it's all so good. It moved me so much that I went to go write an article about it, as well as about a game that I was playing at the same time. You'll see that on the website soon. Hopefully. But the big thing that... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yep. I was going to say, Mononoke is great. It was always my second favorite one. I had that and Kiki's Delivery Service on some old VHSs or whatever. I must have watched both of them like 7 million times.
Very cool. I did see it in IMAX, which was nice.
Oh, wow.
Extra cool. Looked fantastic in IMAX.
I bet.
Big old screen. Lots of
The
detail.
colors and everything.
Fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. And really drove in how bad people's memory is that they just think of Ghibli as pretty art and not something trying to say piece of art that's trying to say something, and includes motherfuckers getting their heads blown clean off their shoulders and hogs getting exploded.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I did almost laugh during that scene. I felt really bad, but there is a scene where a bunch of boars are attacking humans, and the humans throw grenades at the boars, and the boars just go flying, and it's a little funny.
It is. It's. I mean, grenades are comedic. Unfortunately,
It's horror. Like
they're horrifying. They're awful things.
It's one of those things where, in my fucked up brain, when I think about things like that, it just makes me wish that there were some form of warfare and or violence that was not harmful, because I do think that,
Yeah, you
like,
want gag
if you could
manga world.
exactly. If I could just, if I got blown up by a mine and just ended up, you know, flying across the city, and then I end up crashing into a piano, and then I have all the keys in my mouth, that's what I want. That's how it should be. That's exactly how it should be. You could put, like, hot dogs in a Gatling gun. I don't know. I'm just saying shit. Anyway, war is hell, and that is definitely...
Miyazaki would be killing you right now.
He'd be beating the fuck out of me. Open palm, slapping the shit out of me. And I would deserve it. But I think I would deserve it less than... Probably. I mean, he is like, what, like 3 million now? I don't know.
He shaved his beard recently.
I was going to say, yeah, he shaved his beard, so he is at a low power level right now. But the one thing that I really wanted to bring up, and this is a little weird maybe, but I want to do it anyway. I have been reading a lot of manga, as I am to do, because that is probably just the way that is just kind of the way that I enjoy absorbing these sorts of stories, I suppose. And one author that I particularly got interested in was Katsura Ise. Now, a while ago, I did talk about some of their other work, because I saw people saying, hey, there's this manga about a guy who jacks off a lot, and it's actually really poignant. And I thought that sounded insane. And then I read it, and it was really poignant and really good. And so then I found out that the same author who wrote Onani Master Kurosawa also did the Magic the Gathering manga. And that was insane to me. And right then and there, I knew I had to read it, because what the fuck are you saying that the guy who wrote the manga about the guy who jacked off a lot that ended up being really poignant also is doing an official MTG manga?
Well, what is Magic the Gathering if not a
In a
game
sense.
created for...
In a sense, yes. So, this manga is called Destroy All Humans, They Can't Be Regenerated. Which, for the Magic the Gathering fans in the know, they will know that that is the rules text for Wrath of God, one of the strong, like a famous card. Just almost the text. It would be destroy all creatures instead of humans. But I'm not a big MTG person. I've played a little bit here and there. Like, my college roommate was really into it, so I did some drafts here and there. But I like pretty much every other TCG more than Magic, mostly just because I prefer the art style of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Digimon, etc., etc. But I still respect it. Without MTG, we wouldn't have any of those other games. So I did read this, and I walked away from it a little surprised, but also not surprised that it was as good as it was. It's a story about a group of friends who play MTG. It is set in the early days of Magic the Gathering, so the 90s. And it's focused on a boy and a girl. The boy is a pretty standard nerd who loves RPGs and Magic the Gathering and all that sort of stuff. But he's also a tryhard at school, and he has a sort of one-sided rivalry with this. His name is Kano, I will say. And he has this one-sided rivalry with this girl Emmy, who who pretty much moved in when he was a kid, and took over his place as the number one ranked in the class during all the tests and et cetera, et cetera. You know, he would always be number 2 behind her after she showed up. And he finds out that she secretly loves Magic the Gathering and other stuff just like him. And they spark a bit of a romance, and it goes from there, and you know, more things happen, more characters are introduced. They have a little hangout game place that they go to, and you meet all the wacky characters that are also playing MTG at their locals. And it's a fun little snapshot of Japanese otaku culture at the time, particularly involving MTG, because Magic was pretty major back then. Of course, other games came and overshadowed that eventually, but they chose the very specific era where Magic was at its peak in Japan, I would say, because, you know, after that they would do, like Pokemon would come out and Yu-Gi-Oh, and then in order to try to take back their place, they would do Duel Masters and all that. But I would say it's a very, very interesting snapshot of pop culture at the time, as well as just a well-told romance story. As I was reading it, it felt very natural to see Kano and Emmy grow closer and closer, and they introduce some sort of love triangle stuff as well, and I think it's done very well. They introduce another girl about maybe like a third of the way through, and they kind of present this whole thing where she is also very much an otaku, like into all that sort of stuff, but she doesn't hide it like Emmy did. And because she didn't hide it, a lot of her peers were misogynistic to her and were treating her as like, oh, you know, you're being a freak because you're not into girl stuff. And so Kano, finally being a boy who accepts her as a girl but also as a fellow otaku, like, that makes her fall for him. And then it just goes from there, where, you know, Kano very much like does love Emmy from for a very long time, but it goes from there to be like he doesn't want to, you know, hurt the other girl, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to spoil everything. It's very good. I would recommend it, absolutely. Even if you don't really care about MTG, they do a pretty good job of explaining stuff. Like, I have a vague understanding of a lot of stuff, but I will say that I probably know more than, like, someone who's never heard any of it. You know, like, I know what the upkeep step entails. I know a couple of I know who Karn is, but I don't think you need to know that per se to be able to enjoy this. I think it's just a well told snapshot of that era and a really investing romance story that, again, I just feel like does play into Katsura Ise's strengths of talking about stuff that isn't like he is obviously not touching on anything that's as deep or as taboo as what was covered in Onani Master, and also his other work, which I did read, which I'll talk about in a moment. But I think that him having that history with the more serious stories contributed to how good Destroy All Humans, They Can't Be Regenerated is. So I would absolutely recommend it. It is coming out over here, which is kind of crazy. That seems like something that would be a licensing nightmare, but they figured it out, and it's not over yet from what I've seen. I think there's like 1 or 2 more chapters left, and it's been going since 2020, something like that. So it's wrapping up though, and I'm excited to see how it ends. But highly recommended. If I would recommend that wholeheartedly. I would, with some caveats, recommend Kurosawa. Again, it's gross, but I think it tackles what it's talking about with the, with enough grace that I think would be almost impossible for a lot of other artists to do. And I also read his other story, which is often listed as Last Men Healer, which I know it's supposed to be the term Menhara, which is like it's just like slang for like a mentally ill girl, basically. But I read through that, and that broke my fucking heart, dog. Like, just I will just say these, like, 1-sentence elevator pitch is just a boy wants to, a boy wants to reach out to a girl who self-harms, so he pretends that he also self-harmed to breach into that relationship and try to comfort her. And it is just, again, it's one of those stories where you hear that and it's like, oh, there's so many ways that could go bad, but he nails it. It's this really, like, tough story that I think works really well, and I would again recommend it to folks who can handle that level of topic. It's really fascinating. I seriously, I feel like I found a new, like, maybe not favorite of all time, but definitely like a writer that I very much enjoy and want to continue to follow their work, because I've enjoyed everything that Katsura Ise has written so far, and it is stuff that I don't think a lot of other people would be able to do properly.
Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it so much. I know Wheels recommended all of those to me a while ago, and I got, I think, halfway through the jerking off one.
Sure.
And I definitely do appreciate the tone and the, it feels like, not to be the hater here, but I enjoyed it and found it much more compelling than something like Flowers of Evil, as an example.
Yeah, it definitely...
There's humanity in there.
Yeah, it definitely felt like the same, like, tackling the same kind of topic. But I do also know that the manga Flowers of Evil, Maverick, you spoke far more highly of that.
I was going to say there is, again, if we're only basing it off the show, a lot of pitfalls that, again, like, more and more I see people that are like, oh, it's cool, it's so different. It's like, I don't disagree with that, but at the same time, it's just like... there's a whole other half to that story that is just not even touched on, which is a shame because it brings in the rest of this. But
Yeah, based on everything you said of describing that when we were watching it, it just feels like that anime was designed to, if not designed to, that implies like a degree of like intent, I guess. But like I just feels like it was pandering to like that edgy mindset of that era in a way that I really did not appreciate. And the more time I'm away from it, even the more I feel like I dislike it. The way that anime handled everything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I would absolutely recommend any of this specifically to like any of this author's work to Maverick, because again, like if you loved Flowers of Evil manga, I absolutely think you would love any of this for sure.
I was looking at it, I'm like, yeah, no, it seems neat. I relate,
Yeah, like again, I think that Destroy All Humans is just Destroy All Humans. They can't be regenerate. I'm not talking about the PS2 game. I think it is definitely informed by the previous things that he has written or they have written. I don't know if they've revealed their gender or whatever. I apologize. That I just really appreciate that they're touching on stuff that a lot of other people wouldn't, and then treating it with the grace that is necessary, and then can also just use that essence to write a really good romance and also write some cool MTG duels that I will say it's pretty impressive how well they pace the duels in the manga too, because like I said, I've played some Magic the Gathering. Magic is way slower than something like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or whatever. And at least when you're, breaking it down to all the different parts and all that. So I think they do a very good job of presenting how fast the how the duels will look in that scenario without making it take a million years. I mean, I say that, but current day Yu-Gi-Oh is just, it's 20-minute combos and all that. So I don't know. I'm just saying shit, but no, they're very good. Katsura Ise, highly recommend their work. So that'll be my shout out this time.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it so much. I've been watching or fucking reading anything, I gotta be honest with you. I'm caught up on, the only thing I read really that often is Ruri Dragon and
Let's Go
Chainsaw Man. And,
those are both really good. Like I don't want to spoil stuff, but did you read the newest Chainsaw Man chapter?
Oh, yeah.
Holy fuck.
Yep. Great.
It's going.
People keep getting mad at him, and I'm like, can you let him cook? Because I don't know. I think I've said before, but I've appreciated part 2 of Chainsaw Man significantly more than the first one. I obviously like elements of the first one, and it's very 80s movie, but I'm a sucker for the whole tone of the second part, I think.
I agree.
I think it's really interesting. But I every time I check in on the weekly discussions, people are like, oh, what is he doing? He's just spinning his wheels, and I'm like, let him calm down. This man's insane.
You have to spin your wheels to get somewhere.
Yeah. And he loves getting
there.
places.
He's fucking getting somewhere is what he's doing right now. Fujimoto's fucking going places.
Yeah, I mean, both of those are good.
Yeah.
He gave her Ruri Dragon a cursed eye power. Pretty cool.
They did, yeah. I saw that. I was like, all right, Rose is happy about this one.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But I have some quick ones I'm just going to bang out here for what I've been watching in the anime world, and then I wanted to ask Maverick about something that we keep putting off. So me and Trixie keep watching Ave Mujika and 100 Girlfriends. We watched one Ave Mujika and then like 200 Girlfriends. We're on like episode 8 or 7 of Ave Mujika, I think. So, it's finished now, but we're still a little behind. Still enjoying that show. I still think it's interesting. I'm much more. I think I was a little ill at ease with how slow the progression was in that show until they announced they're doing a third season of the MyGo extended cinematic universe. So I'm looking forward to finishing that out. 100 Girlfriends. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I know I say it's peak all the time, but it's so fucking good. It's so fucking good. It's just like one of those episodes we just watched opened with scientists in an Antarctic base saying that the sun is going out.
What?
And then they just go to the rest of the episode from there. Has nothing to do with that. And then at the end of the episode, which is filmed as some sort of like horror movie where one of the girlfriend's hair just overtakes her and takes over the entire world. They shoot all the hair into the sun, and then when the hair girl is like really sad that her hair was attacking everyone or whatever, he goes up to her with his phone and it's just like, look. And the scientists from the beginning are like, somehow the sun is burning the way it used to be. Everything's fine because all that hair went into it. For some reason, this makes the world okay now. It's like, look, you saved the world. And it was really insane. And I just think about how that's one episode. That's just one chapter of this fucking... I'm just rambling. It's a ramble show, though, is the problem. Like, it scatters your brain. It's just, the jokes are so fast. There were jokes about, like, the sun going out explaining the continuity errors of them releasing an episode where the cherry blossoms were blooming in April. Or in March or whatever. Like, an episode came out and it's like, no, that's not cherry blossom season. You mean that wasn't a continuity error? No, it's the sun burning out. And, like... jokes like fucking like, oh my god, does that explain why that one episode of Akagi lasted 17 years or whatever? That one night in Akagi? It's like, Jesus. But the jokes are all good. Every time they add a new girlfriend and they're just all doing their one stupid fucking bit in the background of every single scene. It's so good. It's like a Trails game. Like... the way they just have like, oh, you remember the masochist girlfriend. Well, she's here. What would she do in the situation? Well, she would love it because it's a horrible situation. So she's taking psychic damage to it. It's just so good. It's such a good fucking show. I cannot wait to see where it continues to go. I just saw that in the I guess the last episode of the season, they finally animated his big giant speech. That's like fucking... I don't know if you've ever seen the panel, but it's him, and then just like bookended by like the smallest font imaginable with like a fucking 20,000 word speech about all his girlfriends.
They did it. They animated it.
They did, and they just put it on 4 times speed. It's great. I love that show. It's really good. I highly recommend it. In terms of romance, I just think like it's a joke show, but it gets it. It nails it. And then the only other thing I watched was I finished The Faraway Paladin, which is an anime I watched forever ago. The second season was not that good compared to the first season. It was just too slow in plotting. It felt like it went from like a show that I thought was pretty interesting with its fantasy world. That was the show that I watched where I was like, it's an isekai, but like they never talk about the isekai part. So it just feels like a normal fantasy series. Why didn't they just make it a normal fantasy series? But now it full on went into like, I feel like the second season, especially for all the things I liked that it did. Like, I think they did a great job of like creating these two characters that are like antagonistic forces of like a dragon, and really leaning into like dragons being fucked up. But like the concept of a dragon and the god of death being different types of villains, because the dragon loves fighting heroes, right? They love the puzzles. That's the whole mythos of a dragon, right? They love heroes overcoming odds or whatever. But they still want to win. They're dragons. They want to win the fight to show that they're the coolest or whatever. And then versus a god of death who's like, no, I want all heroes to like keep winning forever and then eventually die so they become cool zombie hero or whatever. I really liked all that stuff. But it was just so slow and weirdly paced, and it felt like a generic fantasy novel, which fundamentally it is at its core, but it was just like a lot of the sauce of the first season. I felt like, because the first season really established and like set up this world that was really cool, like of like, hey, this is like not apocalyptic, but this type of thing where like the world has shrunk a little, kind of like there was this big war and it kind of fucked up the main place everyone lived, so everyone just kind of lives in rural communities now. And like the magic in this world is like entirely chanting based, so you have like people who are like just figuring out how they can like use this like verbal language to do a bunch of different things. And I thought all that stuff was really interesting, and then the second season just did not do much with any of it at all. It coming 4 years after the last season especially really hurt it, I think. Because it just kind of picked up from where the last season was. But I still enjoyed aspects of it, but I was just like, maybe this has been happening a lot recently. I go, maybe I'm just going to fucking read a light novel instead. Because I feel like a dryness is okay in a book almost to me than in an anime. If an anime is like really dry, it can be hard for me to get through. Yeah, that's literally all I watched. I'm hoping that this new anime season, I know like Lazarus is out next week, a couple other things that I'm really interested in checking out. Get into that, see. But I wanted to hear from Maverick about this thing that we keep putting off.
Yeah. So a couple weeks back as well, probably around the same time that I went to Char's Counterattack, I had some friends put on an event. This was like someone basically taking videos and snippets of footage and splicing it together in this found footage documentary, but specifically taking just whatever videos were available of Anime Next 2009 taking place in I'm trying to remember where exactly. I want to say Edison, New Jersey. I feel like that's where it happened. But yeah, it's just like I don't think it's officially out anywhere. Because it literally was just like a collection of clips, and even in the video they were like, hey, I'm sorry if you like find out about this and do not want yourself like represented, reach out to me. But a lot of it just came out as this appreciation of what the mid 2000s anime convention scene was. And so I figure like rather than just go into detail about what that particular convention was like, I guess I'm curious, like, what are y'all's experiences with anime conventions?
I have none. I really only ever went to PAX, which was right nearby me growing up. So I only have... I know that they're similar enough, but they don't have the same, brand of panel, right? The concept, the hangouts, the merch sections as you do. I guess I went to like a one in middle school, like a local one, really low small scale in like rural New Hampshire or something. But that one was not even like a place where they would have panels really. It was like straight up like hey, this is just a room with a bunch of like we rented out a hotel space, and like this room has all the merchandise, and then this is the fighting game room, and this is the whatever cosplay room. I don't know about John though.
Oh, I've been to a few. I mean,
Yeah, all right. You've gone to Anime Expo.
I've been to Anime Expo twice. I've been to Otakon once with Maverick. I've been to a lot of smaller ones, though. Back in Florida, I went to, like, Anime Festival Orlando and MegaCon and shit like that. It was something that I would do a lot more with my friends when I was in like middle and high school. Once I got older, it stopped being as much of a thing, but it would happen here and there. I made some friends and also lost some friends there because I made friends and then later lost them because it turned out they were kind of insane. But then I still just made friends and it was nice. And it's just a good place to meet people who are, in the same boat as you, as it were. But also, you just got to be careful and don't dive into somewhere where it's just the fandom, I guess, because I was thinking about this earlier today. I just randomly thought about how bad fandom is.
Oh yeah,
in the sense
you ever
that
see Roger Ebert, he ranted against it for years.
Sure. Specifically where it comes to just being an overt fan of one thing, usually that is where shit gets dicey. Like I'm super into games and anime and etc., etc., etc. And if you're interested in some like an art form, that's one thing. But if you just like a show a lot, I think that does something to your brain. I don't know what exactly, but I think it does something.
It does do something. I see it all the time with a bunch of games local. Like the Honkai Star Rail, which I enjoy. The fans are just like completely insane and are like, well, there's nothing to do in this game, and it's like because you can move on and do something else. You could go play something else. You could go watch something. You could go live your life freely. Yes. But they just love to just talk to each other about just this forever.
It reminds me about the dichotomy of being like a type of guy, and how I think about this from another podcast that I've been listening to. Specifically about that, where it's just like we're going onto subreddits and just like seeing these specific niche hobbyists, from like rockabilly guys to sex guys to like all these other iterations, and the biggest takeaway from that is to be kind of normal, you need to expand your initial like locus of interest, where in the broader case oh, I'm an anime guy, but I'm also a video game guy, but then also I'm like a music guy. Like enough stuff that branches you out enough where you aren't just looking inward to an extent. And then even in the anime space, it's like, oh yeah, you can be a fan and like a big proponent for a show, but the ideal versions of that level of fandom mean that you're also taking in other things, and that you're still having this point of comparison where it's like, oh, I like things that feel similar to this, I like things that are different to this, and then maybe there's something that isn't necessarily like surface level similar, but there's still something I get out of this that I do enjoy. And I think, to bring it back to this documentary, you see a lot of that like folding over of itself, where you do have these larger swaths of fans, but it's like the one thing to notice is the cosplay. This is like 2009, so for reference, we are like pre-Haikyuu, pre-Attack on Titan. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was getting a big resurgence, not just because of people that were fans of the show, but you also had like the growing popularity of Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series. And My friend who put together the documentary was also including snippets of somebody who worked on, like, what was it again? Zatch Bell, the abridged series, I think. And was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have the big, like, abridging panel later. And so you have these, like, clips of that where, yeah, you just have, like, young, little Karibo doing, like, the voices and everything, I think, like, through a computer, or he might have been there in person. All of these, like, other internet personalities that if you follow them at all now, it's just like, wow, there's nearly it's been like 14 years since you were in this part of your life, and so much has changed in a way, either for better, for worse, oftentimes for better, but just like it's such a particular time capsule in a way that feels so interesting to notice and to, like, really, I don't know, like, the first anime con I went to was Otakon. Like, I never really had a chance to do many conventions, to the point that that's even a lie. There was, like, another small convention happening in New York around, like, 2015 that I went to. This was when, like, I was just in college and, like, kind of trying to see what digging deeper into anime as a level of, like, fandom could feel like. Tried going to anime club at my college, and then I was like, actually, this isn't my boat. And
Yeah.
pivoting to somewhere else. Like, they were just super big into Umaru-chan in a way that I was just like, I'm good. I don't need this, dog. But that ultimately, that convention was also, like, still seeing some abridgers at the point where, like, there was still a space for that. And then that was kind of it. But to see, like, the footage then, it was so much of a gathering space, and a lot of it too was just like, you see these clips of people that are, like, in their teens, in, like, young adulthood, just so, like, unafraid to be indulgent about their interests.
That is the benefit of that type of space, I think. Like, people, we like to say, kill the cringe, right? Vibe, of, like, worrying whether something is cringe or not. And I think obviously there are some aspects of the experience that could perhaps be solved, but it is nice to see people feel like they can express themselves in a place without concern, kind of pretense.
Yeah. And a big part of that too was, like, people are recording themselves, but it's not for the idea of, like, expressing, like, it was recording for the sake of archival, of, like, grabbing that moment and thinking, that's just going to be something I look back to. That's going to be something I keep as a memory, versus what feels more rampant now, this need to produce or to create in a way that is inherently, like, creating a message. In one aspect, a lot of those videos, and you can still find them, like, you can go on YouTube right now, you can type in Anime Next 2009, and you have stuff from, like, 14 years ago, 15 years ago, that is just, like, people shamelessly talking about what they're doing at the con, or just, like, role-playing or LARPing with each other in the middle of, like, convention spaces. And it's not trying to, like, sell an idea or, like, get people, like, it's not trying to sell a product. It's just like, hey, here are these things that we enjoy, and we want to just create a time capsule for this moment. And it's something that I don't think is able to exist nowadays. Like, even in the ability for people to come to these conventions what I feel like is lost is a sense of the third space opportunity that conventions can provide.
It is an extension of that internetification. What's the word? What's the actual word to use? I keep saying internetification. It's not even what I mean. I mean, it is kind of like being plugged in all the time, right? It's like, I feel like people have that degree of, comfortable expression separated in their mind into a separate vehicle that's with them all the time.
Yeah. And even in like the 2009 was definitely still a point of being online, but at that level you still had in like Twitter was still at a very like early iteration of itself that no one necessarily knew how to make use of it. Social media was still at a level of ground floor that like you would still have like Facebook pages for these events, but that even wouldn't be the primary space. Like you have live journals still available of people like tagging each other and trying to connect afterward, because if you didn't get like a person's phone number or email address, that was at least your next best bet to still make a connection. And it still involved a level of putting yourself forward in a way that was just like, the bare minimum that I know about this other person is that they like the things that I like, and I think that they're cool for liking those things. And as someone that spends so much time having to work with young people, that is like the best kind of an environment to actually provide space for young people to learn from each other and to grow. I mean, John, if you don't mind me asking, like, how was that experience as a young person back then to like go to these convention spaces with friends and like experience all that?
It was a bit of freedom, I would say, for sure. Being able to be around others that were into the same stuff as me and not feel as, potentially judged and all that. And seeing people older than me who were still into that stuff was exciting, for sure. It was definitely before I, was too had my thoughts colored by any sort of, oh man, I gotta have a job to pay for all this stuff. And so it was very much one of those things where it was like, oh man, these people can just go to conventions all the time and buy whatever they want, and oh, it's so cool. I have to beg my mom for $50 so I can buy like a DVD while I'm there, and all that stuff. But it was just, and it was cool to be able to be introduced to new stuff, because I wasn't just bombarded with opinions at the time. Again, Twitter was around and I was definitely on there. But I was able to just look around and be like, oh, what's this from? I don't know this guy. Oh, this is called Code Geass? Okay, I can look into this now because I think this character looks cool. Or, like going to one of those rooms where they have an anime playing and watching an episode of Azumanga Daioh and being like, oh, that's hilarious. I should look this up later. It's just an introduction to a part of culture that, while you already like part of it, you're able to understand more of it, and that's very exciting, I would say.
Yeah, it's such a cool experience to like not only have people that are affirming your interests at a peer-to-peer level, but then to also realize like, oh shit, there is a whole like generation before me that is also ushering in this opportunity. And I think that is like, it's something that gets taken for granted sometimes, especially now where, like, John, you and I are, well, you're already 30, I'm on the way to being 30, but like we are much like older than like, well, I was going to say we're older than the average con goer, but I can't even say that anymore because I feel like the age of the average con goer has continued to increase
Yeah.
because of the shift in access. Like, I was hearing stories from people where conventions back then were like, what, $40 for a whole weekend?
Uh-huh.
Could
my
you
God.
imagine?
Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah. And so
Everything
already,
has
like,
gotten
such a
more
big...
expensive,
Yep.
and ay, ay, ay.
I mean, when I went to PAX in high school, straight up, I remember it was $55 for the 3-day pass or something. And then I remember getting the last time I went in like 2018. I just remember it being like fucking $110 or something. It's like literally doubled. Like it. I can't even imagine what it's like now.
Yeah, like, even to think that now, as somebody with a stable source of income, still has those moments of like, oh man, can I afford to go to a convention? When back then I still like struggled to even like think about getting access there. I never did any anime conventions as a kid, but I did go to like, I remember at the time we went, it was me, my girlfriend at the time, and another one of our friends who ended up going to like a steampunk convention, which was like similar in concept. We only went for like a day because it was like, oh, one of the guys from Steam Powered Giraffe is going to be there. Let's, get their autograph. Let's check out the local stuff. It was like a bunch of just like, it was an elaborate garage sale at some sections, but you also had some pretty cool merchandise and like cosplay going on. In the middle of fucking Piscataway.
Yeah, I'm looking at this here. For Otakon, for the full weekend, early bird is $75, which was before December. Online registration is $95 just to get in. And then you have to worry about hotels and food and transportation, etc., etc.
Oh my god, the fucking hotel prices are always like the killer for that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And it's like, thinking again still about like what really like stood out from this moment, it was kind of just like or like back in 2009, like not only was it a opportunity for young people to connect with each other, but then also like the panels that you would see were just so like freeform in what you could do, so much as like, you could just ask the convention organizers to get you a room, and then it would be like you and a bunch of other people talking about yaoi or whatever.
It's just nice to be able to be yourself here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An actual physical location, not the separate online brain.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I don't know, it's like, even in just like the ability to go to those kinds of places, I can't help but feel like nowadays there is a bit of like something that's lost. And I think it's like specifically the way that the anime market has now doubled down on being aware of the anime like fandom, where for a lot of these places it's also the opportunity to like, go to official like merch sections or like get things to buy. It's a lot more focus has been put into the consumption, which like by design, yes, this is like a product to consume. But even looking at like older again, like that older iteration, it was like you had people that were at least like, oh yeah, here's some of the stuff that like I've collected, or like here's like a personal curation on what I'm doing on top of this, or a more vibrant like artist alley section. And then on top of that, still having people like eager to check out like voice actors who are hanging out in the area. Like Kyle A. Bear was at Anime Next 09, and this was like 2 years out of like Gurren Lagann really starting to like, well, one, come out, but two, then like gain traction online and in like personal space, or like, yeah, just like around like circles where like that would be enough of a huge get for people.
It's neat. Yeah, it's definitely cool, and I would like to do another one. I've been itching, but I gotta get full time at my job first. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Just like in a more broader sense also, to piggyback kind of off of what you were saying about like getting guests, etc. It's like, I think that these types of events are really good because I always liked PAX for the same reason of you are meeting people on, if it's on a larger scale, like if they're able to get a guest, get these things.
Yeah.
You are meeting people who are actually tangibly working on these things that you like, that you're invested in and engaged with, and it does humanize the entire thing. And I think that that's something that's really important right now, especially more than anything, is just like with the online sort of creating this environment where you are even more detached from the idea of who is making what in a lot of ways. I think it was just it fosters a sense of community and connection.
Yeah. And I mean, like a lot of those people that went in like 2009, those people that went at like 14 or younger or in their early 20s are now, in their 30s, late 20s, hell 40s in some cases, are in a position to like lead a new generation into that style. And it can feel difficult because of the way that everything is so inflated, but it's also so like necessary. And I think that was the biggest takeaway, that just like the 3 days that you get to spend, to be free, to feel not like no judgment, to just truly like process that like pinnacle of play and of joy, that helps to recognize like, oh, where else can this live, in what capacity, and does it necessarily need to look like one specific way. I tread lightly on the idea of nostalgia. I think especially right now, where it feels like nostalgia has become this, like, not disease, but just...
It is an overwhelming cultural influence in the current environment. Like, it's... I don't even know how to put it. It's just overwhelmingly occupying the mind share.
Overwhelmingly occupying, I think, is the best way to explain it, especially to the capacity where it's like, it's hard to miss things when it feels like they just are ever present.
Yeah. That's why people always say like, oh, there's no culture anymore or whatever, say that shit. It's like, no, there is. It's just, we aren't allowed to forget that 1980s guy had a favorite movie.
Right. Or, it's just like the way that you could at least see things build off of one another, that gets a little bit lost now that, like, no, it's only one thing can be one thing. Or just like, I don't know. I think about the fact that, like, there are people that are going to be seeing that Minecraft movie who, like, grew up with that shit. Like, when it was out, like, when, Notch was still attached to it. And now they're like in college or like in just like another stage of their life, but then it feels like they haven't necessarily needed to distance themselves from that. Which I don't even know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like this relates again to this like idea of just like, well, something that's been coming up for me at least of just, I am almost 30, but then how often do I truly feel like an adult? What does adulthood mean in this current environment where like general milestones no longer make sense? And also everyone is being accelerated to adulthood due to the competition for just any kind of space to speak on a platform.
Yeah.
And I think anime cons are good because it's a moment to be like, no, don't worry about that. Just for as dog shit of a take as you can have, this is at least the space to express that and learn in the moment of what to say or what not to say.
That's very true.
Because, like, again, '09, like, it was peak yaoi paddle time.
Oh, yeah.
People were going around as, like... No, people were making sexual assault jokes. People were, like... I'm pretty sure Pedo Bear was still, like, a big fixture in spots. Yeah. And we can criticize that now, having been, like, outside of it. But at the same time, it's like... Yeah, no, that was, culturally in the zeitgeist, and it was stuff that felt important to express in some capacity.
This is a tangent of sorts, but I really do think, like, in general, having this place where you can focus about a medium or a thing that you really like is really important, just because, like, I was thinking about, there was this podcast I listened to talking about a guy who was hunt down moon rocks that were stolen, like, illegally, and get them back to wherever they belonged, like, because all the moon rocks were given out as, like, cultural exchange things. So, like, Honduras has a moon rock, all these other countries have moon rocks or whatever for display and stuff like that. And it's like, the guy was talking about why he cared so much about getting them, of just like, if you don't have things in museums, if you don't have these places for people to think about things and realize that they really like them and they want to do something with their life related to it, they just don't think about it naturally on their own, and our societies aren't, like, trained to let them think in that way of, like, what they actually want or are interested in. And I think that's the same thing with this sort of thing. Sorry for the weird comparison, but, like, it's like, if you actually get to physically experience something like that and realize, like, it is a space that matters to people, it is a thing that can, like, affect other people, and you aren't just, like, doing it as a side activity, it can be something you genuinely care about. Like, that's how I'm sure a lot of voice actors got into, like, the dub scene,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, or, like, original animated projects inspired by anime. It's just, these places are really important,
Yeah, even outside of that, I mean, like, for some people, a convention or a panel becomes the first level of, like, just event planning that they do, or, like, space allocation, like, these hard tactile skills that do lead to, like, opportunities. It's easy to go back and still laugh at the aftermath of DashCon, but I feel like some of the people that were associated with that, or at least, like, the main, like, young person that needed to take the brunt of it, did end up learning from that experience. I don't think to the point where it's like, oh, now I'm a, like, con organizer, but I feel like, to look back at that, it's like, oh, right, doing something at that level requires tactile skills that are very transferable in other situations. And it's easy to diminish that when it is just through the lens of, like, oh, this is just an anime convention. But, I mean, we've seen in plenty of instances knowing how to conduct those events in a like organized and functioning way is efficient, or like it's necessary to actually keep them long going and consistent. And yeah, I think just like that space to just have that human experience is so crucial. It makes the, I don't know, like I think about it now, especially where like anime is so much more commonplace. Like, I feel like there is never a day I don't see somebody in an anime like inspired shirt or a sweater. Even like, you know, some uncle that has a Naruto shirt on, that's still like, oh, you made the decision to put that on, you know. That is still a level of interaction, even if you aren't necessarily like a huge fan, but you're choosing to do that. And it's not something that feels like garish or unwanted. And it'd be cool to have places to do that, but in the case of here in New York, the closest one is always happening in the Javits Center and is ludicrously priced, is sponsored by Crunchyroll, and is like one part actual convention entertainment, one part giant advertisement. And you can't even stick around for like a late nights around that.
We got to do more stuff. We all got to do more stuff in general.
If you're listening to this and you're like, God damn, what a moment, you know, or like, it doesn't just exist in that level. I would say that like this fascination around like shared community space is what's led me to be more adamant about going to concerts. A similar idea, a little bit more focused in what you're going for, but I mean, end of the day, it's like other people here are going for the same interests that I have, and there's a want to feel connected in that kind of an opportunity. You know, conventions for other cases, like, man, I do wish we had Elvie on for this, because I feel like she is like the certified con goer. And it makes sense because she also does like business and is like actively involved on that side of things as well when it comes to being able to like set up merch, or sorry, like when it comes to just like the different like cogs in the convention just like system. She did share with us some old photos from Anime Fest in New York in '09, and it's just like, again, these spaces still exist. It's not like they died out, but it's just such a different experience nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, she wrote some stuff here too about how she went to Anime Next in Atlantic City, and her friend, here, I'll just read this here. She said, when Anime Next first moved to Atlantic City, my group and I made friends with these badass older nerd women who walked with us / were willing to drive us around safely. We met a mutual friend whose family owned a local Vietnamese restaurant and had the best pho in town. They legit worked as a cook and brought us food every day. Like, yeah, like, there should just be more excuses to go to places. You know, like that's the thing, is that a convention is just an excuse to go somewhere. We got to go to DC because we were at Otakon and we didn't do too much stuff, but we got to go to the Cheesecake Factory right near the White House, and it was really fucking good. And I don't know if any other Cheesecake Factory is as good as that one, but if we go to Otakon again, we got to go back to the Cheesecake Factory.
I'd be down for it. And even there, like, we had two people on like a work trip, like sitting next to us, and they're like, hey, do you know what's going on with all this? And we got to explain that. And then it turned out like, oh, my husband would be like down for that. And then she like showed us pictures of like her wedding photos where her husband is like a huge Dragon Ball Z fan. And we were like, oh, where do you live? What's nearby? And we're like, oh, you're in Georgia? Momocon is probably your best bet. Get tickets for that when you can.
It's good. It's good. We've all got a nerd inside of us in some way, shape, or form. Let's all connect. And here I'll read. Trixie sent one in too. Actually, let me read this here. Trixie says, most of my favorite con memories end up being stuff that happens tangential to the con. For example, one of my all-time favorites is still from Anime Expo, where I hung out with and got dinner with John and others, which is possible because of the con, so it counts. And I didn't read this beforehand. Aw, Trixie, that's so nice. I didn't know. Aw. It was very nice to meet Trixie, though. And, yeah, we just ate and hung out and had a nice time. I think, I gifted her, like, I bought some, like, first edition Haruhi light novel hardcovers because I saw them at my local half-price books, and they were dirt cheap. And I was like, oh man, if I want these, this is going to be the only way I can get it. And then I started reading it, and I was like, I actually don't really want to read these. So then I just ended up giving them to Trixie. And I mean, hey, they have a home that loves them, and Trixie didn't have to spend $700 on them. So that was nice. But no, yeah, it was a delight to meet you as well, Trixie, and to hang out with you as long as we did. But yeah, I mean, just to have a nice excuse to hang out with people. It's good. It's nice. People are cool. It's nice to have friends. And one last one here. Beryl did send something there. Yeah. Beryl says they have only been to one anime con, but plan on going to again this year and cosplaying as Ryoshu from Limbus Company. Rose, I know you know Limbus Company more. How badass of a cosplay is this, do you think?
It should be a pretty easy one. It should feel comfortable, I think. It's probably just going to be literally like a white dress shirt, long sleeve dress shirt with a sword.
Sure. And then
if you get to wear the red contacts, that'll be great.
Yeah. And then Beryl asks, do any of y'all have experiences cosplaying? And if so, who'd you cosplay? What were the challenges of cosplaying, especially for the first time? I have cosplayed a good handful of times. I don't know if you all want to hop in first, but I've done it. I have my
2B wig. That's the extent of my modern cosplaying. But when I was a teenager, my girlfriend and I did Riku and Roxas from Kingdom Hearts as a yaoi thing. Because that was what we were into. And that was an experience.
I respect it. But, I'm saluting right now.
Yeah, thank you. No, it was her idea. She fucking was addicted to yaoi. That one was easy because I did Riku, whatever. Riku, it's easy. You just get horrible white spray dye for your hair that they sell for Halloween costumes, and then you just wear a giant black robe. Easy.
Nice.
Don't even have to try.
For me, it was never anything. Like, I never did it for like cons. I still have some level of not anxiety, but just like, if I were to do that, it would be because I liked the character so much that I wanted to, like, show that off. But there's none that come to mind right now where I'm like, oh my god, I gotta dress as them. In high school, for a friend's Halloween party, I did put together a costume of the Spine from Steam Powered Giraffe with like the makeup and everything.
Damn.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, my mom helped out with the makeup.
That's
and
awesome.
with like the actual costume setup, but it was just like a lot of me trying to find the pieces and like get stuff that felt as close to like what they were going for at the time.
So I've done it a few times. My My first cosplay was okay. I used to be very into Homestuck, and I cosplayed John Egbert, which was basically just me wearing the shirt.
I'm so glad. Like, that rules for you, dude. That's so good.
I will say, one of the funny memories that I have of that was going to a meetup of Homestuck cosplayers, and when they were like, "Oh, the John Dave go up there and do shit," and like they were all macking on each other, and then me and my friend who cosplayed Dave just like did a dumb pose together. We were just like, yeah, you know what? Even if they were the Yowies, I think they would do that anyway than just macking on each other. You know, I think that's the truth of the character, in my opinion.
Right. Oh my god, I forgot to. Sorry, like to.
Oh, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Come back to that. Like, again, Anime Next 2009 was like pre, like the Homestuck jump, which is wild to think about in retrospect.
Yeah. That was an era. That was a crazy ass era. And there was a point where I still enjoyed Homestuck where I was like, no, I can't participate in this in a large capacity because a lot of y'all are fucking insane, and I will continue to just enjoy this by myself. And I mean, that's how I think most people should just enjoy fandom stuff, is to just find a group of people that are normal and you can hang out with them and talk about stuff that you like in general.
Just never care about the larger fandom. That is my advice to everyone. Never, ever care.
So I did do a Travis Touchdown cosplay that was it was a little janky, but I still did it, and it was pretty decent. I put it together with whatever I could get at the time as a broke high schooler, and I think I did okay. You know, it was okay for what it was. And then at Otakon this past time, I did buy a Flynn from SMT4 cosplay, and I did wear that. And to answer the big question here, the challenges of cosplaying, it's fucking hot. It sucks ass if you're wearing something that has, say, a jacket or maybe a full samurai garb thing with a big ass wig with a ponytail, and you're carrying around a samurai sword and gloves and oh my god. It was not good. It was very sweaty. That is probably the number one challenge of cosplaying, but if you're doing something where your character is wearing normal clothing, you should be fine. I distinctly remember one of my the same friend who was also Homestuck cosplaying with me did eventually cosplay Q from Street Fighter 3, and we legitimately thought that they had heat stroke multiple times during that weekend, because we were in Florida during the summer, and they were wearing a big ass trench coat and a hat and a mask, and it got kind of bad a couple of times there.
I bet.
So make sure you drink plenty of water. That is what I will say. That is the challenge of cosplaying, is when you're wearing a bunch of shit and it is the summertime, you will sweat a lot.
So, John, it's very funny that, like, this cluster of friends that you may have had in Florida have now moved to New York, and I occasionally, like, bring you up, and it's like, oh, right, him. And it's funny because it's, like, still that same energy of, like, cosplay and, like, getting stuff, you know, set up for these bigger events.
Yes.
Again, for that documentary screening, a bunch of my friends ended up, like, cosplaying as, like, the Lucky Star crew.
Yeah.
And one of them was also, like, Haruhi, because they were doing a performance of God Knows, since they're also, like, an Annie song performer on the side.
Sure, yeah.
But just like, I don't know. Again, I keep thinking about that like continuation of craft and artistry and stuff like, that janky initial cosplay still sticks with you. It's something that you
does.
keep leaning into.
It does. It's nice. It's good. It's fun.
If you have ever thought, oh, I can never cosplay because I don't have the money, kill that thought. We need more janky cosplay.
I agree. Just do it. Just have fun.
Not everything needs to look amazing. Not everything needs to look like too scaled. There is no one specific way to portray a character,
Yeah.
so long as you are like giving it the 100% that you want to. If you're half-assing it, that's another thing. But to work within a limitation of budget or of resources and still commit to that vision, that, like, I don't know, it just is something that I can tell when people have, like, gone through that. It's just like, oh, you're set for anything else. Like, you are unfuckwithable.
We all need to just live our lives more.
Well, all right. That I was going to say we could talk about it a little bit more, but honestly, that was a whole huge subject, and then
Yeah.
we can always save little extra things for next time, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Especially mainly because I want to watch Negative Positive Angler and talk about it with you, Maverick, and I'm only on episode 3. But yeah, cool. All right. Well, I'm glad we could finally talk about your con thing. I was looking forward to you talking about it. I know we're still we're talking here. What do we want to do for our anime situation with Samurai Flamenco? Do we want to finish Samurai Flamenco? Do we want to try to make a vow? Do we want to switch to a new show?
I mean, I'm game for it. It's fine either way for me. But I think that we should make do of our promise.
Okay. I just feel like we need to agree to do it sometime in the near future, or we'll keep putting it off. We'll talk with LV about it, figure it out. But otherwise, I would be talking about that. We'll experiment. We'll figure something out. I guess that's everything, though. Thank you, Beryl, for writing in.
Yes, thank you.
I am looking forward to the new anime season. Hopefully it's pretty good. I need to... All your Gundam talk has also reinvigorated me to watch more Gundam, because I've still only watched a little bit into Zeta myself.
Check it out.
Yeah. Learn all about that crazy bastard. All right, the usual, patreon.com/gamesline. $3 gets you episodes 1 week early. You can always send in more opinions and questions to gamesline.tumblr.com/ask. I know John is going to set up an email at some point. So
That's
we can
right.
use that instead. Some people are put off by the Tumblr box. I get it. It's a little scary.
It's not necessarily that it's scary. From what I was told, it's just people want to be able to not have to worry about the limitations of the
box. Yeah, sure. I never think about that. It does have the thing where it just cuts you off. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. All right. Yeah. Cool. Well, I hope everyone out there has a good day, night, week, month, year, and see you next time on an episode of Unlimited Railworks.